Welcome to Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC, and a place where leaders learn from leaders. Let's join today's episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Perspectives podcast hosted by Essence Learning LLC. My name is Phyllis Williams, and I will serve as your facilitator today. I'm truly looking forward to discussing this topic, navigating through crucial conversations. Again, that's navigating through crucial conversations. And we've assembled a perfect team of experts and leaders to guide us through crucial conversations. We have with us today Ruben Gonzalez, John Jacobs. John is not available. Juanita Mercer and Valerie Wilson, who are seated on the panel today. Good day to each of you.
Hi, Phyllis.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Before we get started, can each of you introduce yourself and give us a quick description of what you do? Ruben, would you like to start with us?
Sure, I'm happy to. I'm Ruben Gonzalez. I'm the Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Wellbeing Leader for a large medtech company. And, for all intended purposes, I lead our global DE&I strategy, which is quite comprehensive. So we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you. Juanita, you want to go?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Juanita Mercer, and I am the founder and CEO of Lead My Heart, an executive coaching and consulting company, where I equip executives and their teams to live and lead with purpose, passion, and power. I also have a background in education, over 16 years as an international educator here and in China. And I'm also a pastor. I'm currently the teaching pastor at Vertical Church.
Wonderful.
Very familiar with Vertical Church. Those are friends of ours.
Quite diverse.
Yes, quite diverse. I'm Valerie Wilson, CEO and founder of Essence Learning. I'm so excited for all of you to join us on this podcast. So let's get started, Phyllis. I'm excited.
Yes, sure. Now, navigating through crucial conversations can be a daunting task, especially when the stakes are high and emotions run strong. It can cause stressful work environments that result in little progress, poor performance, and withdrawn employees. However, when crucial conversations are handled effectively, the quality of your relationship and your workplace effectiveness, tends to improve drastically. So to help us understand how to navigate these conversations effectively, we're going to lean on the panelists to share their opinions, experiences, and expertise. So for this podcast, we are using crucial conversations as a discussion characterized by high stakes, differing opinions, and strong emotions. So, Valerie, if you would answer this question for us, how does your skills in handling these conversations directly affect the overall workplace environment?
Well, being effective, and thanks for throwing this to me first. And I think a leader that can effectively navigate, and that means lean into the conversation, help to facilitate the outcome of the conversation, help direct and allow people to have their feelings, everyone being heard. To navigate that conversation is an opportunity for everyone to be able to put their feelings on the table without judgment. And then together, helping all of us within that conversation come up with a result that is meaningful and can be supported by everybody in the discussion, right? So when there are high stakes, as you described, or when there's a difference of opinion and strong emotions, a lot of things come into play. And so we have to stop and navigate each one of those experiences or opinions or thoughts that who's ever in that conversation is having. And if we don't do that, and we don't take the time to do that when the stakes are high, when the emotions are high, then we run the risk of that really spreading out, becoming larger and larger, and it's like that snowball effect becomes bigger and bigger. And so sooner or later, you're now managing a much larger problem, with the core being way back, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when we didn't navigate that conversation, when we allowed it to build and fester and to become more. And so if we don't manage it right, then it becomes a bigger problem, and harder to solve. So to answer your question, the effect that it has, it makes us trusting, because I know that it's safe for me to have this conversation as someone has helped to facilitate it and my voice is heard. It makes it a collaborative place where we're all willing to listen to the other person and build on each other's ideas and leverage each other's thoughts, and experiences. And so it becomes a place of inclusion. So it becomes that place. But if we don't do that, it becomes that place of not inclusion, but confusion and exclusion. So I think we just kind of think through what happens when you do, and even worse, what happens when you don't.
Exactly. I totally agree. Juanita or Ruben, do you have anything to add to that? Either.
I will say that with regards to emotions running high, one of the things I always encourage people to do is to not be quick to respond. So often we feel so much pressure to respond in the moment, and we don't have to. I'll never forget when I heard a friend of mine on the phone. She was actually a colleague, but also a friend, and she was getting some pushback from one of her superiors, and she was on the phone, and she said, "Let me think about that, and I will call you back." My mouth dropped.
Yes.
Because it was like, I can't
I'm
do that.
alone.
So often we think we have to respond in the moment. So often we think I gotta attack this right now, and you don't. But the power in saying, let me think about that. Let me think about what you just said, and let me come back to you with a response in an hour, in a day, whatever that appropriate time frame is, to collect myself, collect my thoughts, and not respond in the moment and say something that might be emotionally driven, right? And not driven towards the success that we want in moving forward.
I totally agree. Silence is hard for a lot of people. And definitely when you're talking to a superior, you feel like you have to respond to them because they want an answer, but they want the correct answer. So pausing that and giving yourself time to think about that conversation before you have it.
I think too, Juanita, as we think about how do we help as leaders help people navigate to that, sometimes we may want to encourage people to pause and say, hey, I think we got a lot of emotions going on right now. So let's just kind of step back, and let's give ourselves permission to feel it and understand it, and think about it before we really have any further discussion about it. So sometimes even it's appropriate, as we're helping others to navigate those conversations, as well as ourselves, but sometimes giving people permission to step back as opposed to making them ask. That's a good point. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Ruben, did you have anything you want to add on that?
Maybe just my own personal kind of growth experience with this, and that so often I would come into a conversation with my mind made up, taking the tools that I've learned and trying to ensure that the individual felt heard and respected, but not actually hearing and respecting the individual, right? So going beyond the tools and practices that you've learned, and learning to simply humanize the experience so that the individual can truly feel like there's empathy and compassion and understanding. I found that so often isn't about finding a solution, but ensuring that someone really feels respected. So
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's definitely to what Valerie was said about being heard, right, Val?
Perfect. I was just thinking about what he was saying. It's not always about finding that solution, and that just kind of steps you back to many of us as leaders. And I just can think of how many conversations over the 40 years I've been in leadership where driving the conversation towards a solution instead of towards improving relationships or making sure that people feel safe and heard in the conversation. And to Ruben's point, how many lessons you've learned when they say, you just don't hear me, you just don't understand, you don't hear, when you start hearing that back, you kind of take it back. I'm just truly trying to solve for the problem. And then going, well, we're not going to get to the problem until you solve for me, right? Until my needs are met. We're not going to get to solving your problems. And so oftentimes, so when we think about what's the overall workplace, I think Ruben brings up a great point that if we're not really meeting the people's needs, we're really not going to meet the needs of the organization. They're just not going to help us solve for problems, right? They're just going to you don't care about me, so why should I solve? Why should I care about what the business needs? And so that brings up a good point too.
Yeah. One of the things I would like to bring up with regards to workplace culture is you create the environment you want to be able to have these crucial conversations more often and more easily by the culture that you have. And a lot of that has to do with, and I'm going to use this L word that we don't often want to use in leadership and workplace, and that's love. You have to love people. Because what I've learned is that when people, not only when you love people, but also when they know you love them, you can say almost anything
So
to a
then,
person.
do you think, Juanita, that conversation, when you use that L word, you think that conversation is no longer crucial, right? It's safe, it's good, it's needed, it's a catalyst, it's a refreshing, right? Good, I like that.
But it also means that I've done the work to show you that I love you, to show you that I care for you, and that no matter what I say that sounds critical, that sounds like I'm, attacking or coming at you about your weaknesses, it's still from a place like, we want you here. I need you here. And you're a part of this community. You're a part of this team. And the things that we have to do to move forward, you're not doing it alone. We're doing it together. So this is an us problem. This isn't a you problem. And it's also taking the step to say, okay, what as a leader have I done to contribute to the inadequacies or deficiencies that are happening, But again, going back to that L word, love. When people know you love them, there's not really too much you can't say to them and get you to the place you want to be. But it's when we forsake people feeling valued, feeling seen, feeling heard, and they've spent so much of that time in the organization feeling that way, any little thing will be offensive. It'll feel like an attack, and they're going to repel.
Good conversations. Good conversations. We got to have to move this along forward. I love this. But let's think of a time when maybe a leader avoided or did not handle a crucial conversation successfully. And, Juanita, you talked about love. A lot of leaders don't want to even put themselves in a position as such to show that they care, because if they need to have a conversation, a hard conversation with the employee, they don't feel like they can. But how did that affect, and when you avoided having a conversation, or when you known someone has avoided having a conversation, how does that affect that employee? What kind of effect does it have on the employee, or what kind of effect does it have on the culture of an organization?
Was that question directed at someone?
Sure, go ahead and answer it.
Okay. Sure. I was like, I didn't want to jump in. You know what? I have witnessed on both sides the power of having crucial conversations early and things not festering and blowing up. And it's like, ooh, it was simply a misunderstanding. And one thing I would say is that, how do you know when you need to have a crucial conversation? At the point you don't understand something. Don't wait. If you simply don't understand what someone did, why they responded the way they did, why they made the decision they did, sit down and have a talk with them. It doesn't have to be all anxiety driven. I need to have a conversation with you. We need to schedule a meeting. No, in fact, I encourage people to not do that. Make it casual. Don't build up anxiety to where people are already coming to a situation feeling as though it's all about them and what they didn't do. But just say, hey, I would love to know your thoughts behind your decision process, how you came to this. Like, I just want to get to know you better and what you're thinking. And that sounds so much better than just starting with, we need to talk. we need to talk about how you made that
Of
decision,
course.
right? So let's already avoid that. But I've also seen how negating, avoiding, let's just let it kind of work itself out. People around know when a crucial conversation has not been had.
Mhm.
Please don't, we got to understand that, right? In organizations, we know when crucial conversations have not been had with key people for which they need to be had, and how it demeans and just it really ruins the culture of the organization that you're working to build, because no one wants to work in an organization where they feel like people just get away with treating people
That's right.
badly and doing unintegral things. And no one wants to be in that type of environment. But people know when it hasn't been had. So you're not only just dealing with them, you're now dealing with everyone
Mhm.
around them who's still being influenced and, dealing with the outcomes of conversations not
Yes.
being had.
Now let's switch the focus a little bit from the employee. What if you need to have a crucial conversation with your leader or with your manager? How do you handle that? Ruben, do you want to address that for us?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'll try. um, I think we've alluded to kind of setting the environment for that conversation. And it's no different when we're approaching our manager or our manager's approaching us. So I think there's a level of investment in ensuring that there's trust equally on both sides. I think personally for me, one of my goals when I step into any role or any project is to ensure that the team or my boss knows that I'm here to support the organization and I'm here to win, right? And my end goals ultimately are in service of that. And if there's a misalignment or if there's something that we need to kind of come to the table on, like, let's get back to that. So kind of setting the tone for that is key. And again, that takes trust and investment in the relationship. I always like to stick to facts and not try to get emotional, although for some of you that know me very well, that can be very difficult. But I think just speaking openly and vulnerably about why you did the things that you did and the things that perhaps you're needing to accomplish and or support and or really be the contributing individual that your manager sees is key. I think there so often there's a misalignment on what the individual, let's just say me, the employee, uh,
Mhm.
sees as important or where I should be prioritizing my time, or quite frankly, what I should be doing, in that day or that week or that month, versus what a manager might think.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, again, so coming into a conversation with a lot of vulnerability, having built and invested in trust on the front end, I think are really key components. I think that goes so often that goes undervalued, and that we go into a conversation, we prepared, we watched the YouTube video or Instagram story, and again you have your tools in place, but you haven't invested in the relationship, so
Mhm.
you're almost setting yourself up for failure.
Yes.
And that goes both ways, right? So that's not to hold the employee accountable or the manager accountable. I think there's mutual respect on both sides.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree.
I think has kind of start just kind of piggybacking off what everyone has said, but really, Ruben, just the next step to where you were was, it's an investment in the relationship that um, has to happen with each interaction. So basically, you're creating and fostering an environment of trust and respect, where the conversations that you're having aren't unnatural. So when I'm doing well, I'm expecting to
Mhm.
hear that I'm doing well. When I'm not doing so well, I'm expecting to hear
Mhm.
that as
Yes.
well. And so when those expectations are there, because that relationship has been built over time, then it doesn't feel so crucial. It's critical, it's important, and it's needed. And your emotions are going to be there. It doesn't erase the feelings and the disappointment or the embarrassment or whatever comes with when I didn't do well, or the excitement and exuberance when I did well. So oftentimes, though, we have to remember as leaders that when someone comes to you and they either are wanting to share with you some mishap that they saw, something that they like to see you as a leader to correct, a problem that you're having with their interaction. It takes courage. So regardless of how much you've built that environment for them and how safe you think it is, they have to conjure up some type of a courage to come into their leader and say, I didn't like what you said to me, or what happened over here offended me, or I didn't get recognized for whatever that sounds like. They have had to play this over in their head 1,000 times, and it's taken some courage for them to walk in, walk up, and speak to you. Even more courage if it's not thought through. So, right, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's right now in the moment type of feedback to you. That's huge. So as leaders, we're kind of stepping back and wanting to make sure that we recognize what it took for that person, regardless of what foundation and relationship you've had. That particular type of conversation takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I think you kind of touched on what some of the tools and strategy one could use before preparing to have those crucial conversations. So making sure that the environment is right, and that the employee feels safe to have those conversations, and that the culture is such that you feel comfortable enough to have a conversation with your leader, and that you will not be retaliated or anything like that. I appreciate that discussion. We are coming up to the close of our conversation, but I have one more question for you. How do you determine if, when you're needing to have these crucial conversations, once you've had it, that your conversation is successful? How do you determine that?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a good question.
You want to dive into that for us?
I don't have the answer, but I have my feelings around that. I'm trying to not be emotional, but I'm going to lead with my feelings.
Okay.
I personally feel that when I leave a conversation and I was first respected and heard genuinely, whether we didn't solution it, that conversation was successful, because it removes so often the barriers that prevent, I'm going to say for me, from moving forward. The anxiety, the unrest, the maybe perhaps it could be feeling like I'm not contributing, to the team as effectively as I can. All that gets removed because now I was respected and I was heard, and and we can move forward. So I think when both parties, I think mutually, particularly anybody that's a subordinate, leave a conversation feeling fulfilled in those two aspects, respect and genuinely being heard, I would say that's a successful conversation, at least for me. I'm sure there are more diplomatic or correct answers to that question.
Employees just want to know that they're being heard. Juanita, were you going to say something?
Yes, I love that, Ruben, and I totally agree with that as the base. Right, we start there. Does everyone feel heard and respected? My camera's trying to keep up with my gestures, so
We can see it all. That's fine.
Yeah, because I'm big on gestures. The other thing I would add is that we agree at least on the next steps.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be solutioned, as I like how you said that, right? We don't have to come to an answer, but do at least agree on what the next steps should be. Okay, and what that looks like more moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just going to say that too. But the idea that when we're all discussions now, we're ready to move forward. So when you get everybody ready to have those discussions, that comes words, and oftentimes people are saying, also, next month when we meet, we're going to talk about what you. So it doesn't have to say, does everybody agree to move forward? But you start hearing the conversation start towards the next things to happen and what we're going to do next. And when the conversations are less pointed, so you're looking for the words, you're looking for the attitude towards the future. So sometimes you don't want to start, does everybody agree? Are we all on one page? And, it's kind of how we wrap up those conversations. But you can start to feel that when Juanita's point, when we're ready to move forward, you start hearing people start talking about, well, next month when we meet, or the next time we have, oh, I appreciated you taking the time with this. And the next time when I come in, I won't feel so. So you start hearing those next time conversations. You've had a successful interaction.
Exactly right. And then kind of a recap when you start that next meeting so people know that they were heard and understood, right? Is there any, as we really come to a close on our podcast, and I want to thank each of you guys for participating, are there one or a few last words or tools or anything that you want to provide with our listeners today before we get off?
We all like shaking hands. Go ahead, Juanita.
I do. And in fact, it's a model I call poise. And I teach this as a model for any type of crucial conversation. And so P is be prayerful and positive. Don't go into any conversation without first seeking some guidance. That for me, that's God. For you, it might be someone else that you trust, a mentor or someone else, but seek guidance and be positive going into it. Expect the best outcome. Oh, be open to changing your mind. And so often we go into conversations thinking like you're only there to be heard, but you also have to be there to listen. And when you're open to your mind changing, that also says that maybe I'm going to hear something that I didn't understand before that's going to change how I look at this. I forget, informative. That's right. Be informed. Be informative, stick to the facts. And Ruben had mentioned this earlier as well. The importance of, yes, feelings are important, but when it comes to these types of conversations, stick to the facts. Not pointing the fingers to you, but this is what happened, be sincere at all times, be honest, be transparent with whatever level of vulnerability that you're comfortable with. And I even encourage people to be able to say, this is all that I'm comfortable sharing at this point, and allow that to be respected. And then E, be encouraging. At the end of the conversation, always direct it towards, we're going to do this together. I'm still here for this. I still want the best for the outcome, and I'm on board. So that's the poise model for conversations. Yeah.
I'll just end with what I always say is have the conversation.
Yeah.
Have the conversation. Whatever that takes, lean into the tension and have the conversation.
Yes. Fantastic. Ruben, did we hear from you?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can add value to what my panelists here have said. Maybe just a realization again that we're seeing as we think about generational differences we've talked a lot about, the L word, love, trust, building relationships, investing in people. And we do find these cultural differences where people feel like that's not my job. I came to manage, I came to get my paycheck, and I'm out the door. And I can tell you that as we see new generations into the workforce, that's just not going to fly anymore. And so we need to be willing to invest in people if we ourselves want to stay kind of, current, as they say, and be good, inclusive leaders. Like it's not an ask anymore. I think it's an expectation. So I hope that people receive that with openness and willingness, in we just have to be willing to to invest in people a little bit more.
Yes, I agree. Well, as we wrap up, I just want to recite rather the poise. I like that, to pray and be positive, to be open to change, informative. When you go in with your discussion, make sure you bring in facts, be sincere, and then encouraging, and then have that conversation, as Val said. And then, as Ruben was saying, just be mindful that there are different generations within your workplace. I want to thank each of you for participating today in our podcast, the Navigating Through Crucial Conversations. And for our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about Essence Learning, please go out to the website. It's essencelearningllc.net. And there are products and services out there that I am sure we can accommodate you with whatever you may need. Thank you again for listening in.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC. Essence Learning is your solution to personal and professional development. We partner with our clients to develop a learning strategy that will increase productivity, enhance performance, and align with their purpose and goals. For more information, visit us online at essencelearning.net or call us at 1-877-657-5755.